female approach. I don't want to offend women, but by only saying they bring on a female touch. But I really miss that sometimes in metal. I'm more of a free guy, you know. When I was young, I used to come up with drum solos in songs from The Cream or from Golden Earring or Dire Straits, you know, just playing my own parts instead of their parts.
My name is Tony Gonzalez, Antonio, yes.
Antonio.
Yes.
Yeah. Where are you actually calling from in Spain?
I'm from Madrid, but I was born in Cuba.
Ah, in Cuba, like all the way on the other side of the planet. All right. So now you're in the capital.
Oh, no.
Nice. I'm calling from Utrecht in the center part of Holland as well. Yeah,
Okay.
Le Pays Bas. Oh, how do you call it? Le Pays Bajos?
No, Holanda. Holland,
Hollanda?
Holanda,
Really?
of course.
Ah, Holland.
Holanda. So Utrecht is a very famous city, historic
Yeah,
resonance. Yes.
not so famous as Rotterdam and Amsterdam, but Utrecht is in the middle. It's nice. Yeah, it's kind of famous.
As I told you, I'm going to make an introduction and start with the questions.
Definitely.
Tony Gonzalez from Made in Metal, and today I'm talking to Stef Broks, the founding member and drummer from Texture. How are you, Stef?
Hey, I'm doing really well. Thank you very much. I'm a happy man. I released my drum book yesterday. So since I'm a drummer and I wrote this drum book, it's a big days for me. So I'm really looking forward as well, of course, to the new Texas album. It's gonna be special days the upcoming months.
By the way, congratulations for this new recording. It's full of energy and precious, intricate, and surprising moments. Thank you for the music.
Thank you very much.
The press release insists that genotype is not the second part of phenotype, but a rebirth. At what point in the process did you realize that you were building something completely new emotionally?
All right, yeah, that was quite in the first stage of the writing process. When we started out, once again after 7 years, we started writing with like the old style of texture songwriting, and we came up with sort of rhythmical ideas once again. And suddenly we realized, hey, this idea is already done by that band, and this new idea that we have is already worked out by that band. So doesn't make sense. I think we have to do it like really all over again, like construct something new. And that's actually why I called Uri, our synthesizer player. He is relatively new in the band. He came in for the last record, Phenotype, the last record we released in the first stage of Textures before we split up. I called Uri and I said, Uri, come on, you have to be the main man on the new record. We've always been like very guitar and drums orientated with complex stuff and thrash metal and blah blah, very metal and guitar and drums orientated. But for this, you are our chance. You have so much to offer. He's a very talented guy, you have to know. And he's very much into, besides playing piano, into crafting sounds and layers and atmospheres, and that's why we talk like maybe we have to build a new sound with and the progressive side and the modern approach. And I think that this new album Genotype is very much that. It's our new sort of identity, you could call it. But I think that the songwriting now is central to the whole thing. And that was not always the case. I think with the previous album, there has been so many experiments with rhythms and tonality and whatever. You can hear it in the songs. When I listen back to the song, sometimes I think, oh my God, it's just too much stuff in this song. We have to strip it a bit to get a better song. And I think now the songwriting is kind of it's way better. This album, actually to me as being a founding member, is the first album with all decent songs on the album. And don't forget, we're still proggy. And I'm really in for the 5, 6, 7, even 8-minute songs. That's my kind of attention span. And it happens on this album. I'm very glad that it worked out, actually.
Hi, I'm Tony Gonzalez, and this is Made in Metal. If you are passionate about rock and metal, this channel is your home. Here we celebrate the musicians, songwriters, and producers who have made history. We have already interviewed some incredible artists, and with your subscription, we can go even farther. Your support gives us visibility, open doors, and allows us to keep creating powerful, authentic content. Subscribe, share, and be part of this metal loving community. Thanks for being here, and let the good rock keep rolling. All the music is written from zero. Were there any old ideas that you deliberately decided to leave out because they belonged to another version of Texture?
We actually started all over new. So we have this song, like the first draft of Genotype from back in the days, 8 or 9 years old. Right after Phenotype, we started writing on this first draft of the new Genotype. But it was just not good. We wanted to come up with a song of 45 minutes long, proggy, also like very fusion jazz kind of track with a lot of hints to our older tracks from the first albums. But it just didn't work out. And actually, it's still on the shelf. It's never used and not listened by anybody. And it's not finished as well. There's a song of like, it had to be a song of 45 minutes, but we have like 20, 25 minutes of material. But it's just stuck on the shelf, and it will never probably be released. So we started all from scratch for this new album. And we had to. Actually, we had to, because otherwise you get stuck in older ideas and old personalities, I think.
Genotype, according to the promotional test, seems more focused on the inner world and the unheard. If a fan were to listen to both albums back to back, what do you think that sequence will reveal about who you were before the breakup and who you are now?
I don't think there's so much of a relation to this, because we always wrote about psychological, philosophical struggles already from the debut album, Vola. It's just that we are sort of mesmerized by the topic of people that don't have this voice of speaking out. People maybe with a certain kind of shyness, or a certain kind of mental state, or autism, or that kind of stuff. It's really a topic that relates to us. For I don't know if it's really us. Maybe it is really us, but it really speaks to our minds. Actually, that's why we came up with those lyrics. Maybe because we are teachers. Half of the band is like teaching to professional musicians, and we're dealing with people, and we see struggle like everywhere. People struggling with certain identities and mental problems, and in any kind of form. Especially today, it's kind of interesting how people deal with that, because on the one hand, it's way easier to speak out about all those topics that are in your head. On the other hand, it's way harder to go out to the big world and to meet up to people, because I actually don't know where the issue lies, but especially for young people, the outside world feels so much heavier and so much more confronting than before when we were young.
In general terms, are there any specific lyrics on Genotype that you could feel like a personal confession, something you wouldn't have dared to put on Texture album before?
Yeah, definitely. You have to know, I was involved with lyric writing throughout almost every album, but especially the one I did a sort of testimonial to my friend who passed away when I was 2. And that song ended up at Dualism, our album of 2011. But for this record, there's another personal story, not really personal, like that it's evolved around me, but Vanishing Twin deals with the topic of having a vanishing twin syndrome. And two relatives of mine dealing with that topic. I don't know if you know what it means, the vanishing twin topic. Do you know what it is?
No.
It's that you are born in the womb of your mother as being part of a twin. So they can see there's two fetuses, male or female, whatever. You have a brother or sister there in the womb. And for some reason, that co-brother or sister is vanished, is swallowed by the other, or it's not born alive. And then for a lot of people, the vanishing twin syndrome happens. They have the feeling that there's a sister or brother in their life, but there is actually not. But it's like those people, they live for two people together sometimes. And from the start, they have sometimes this sort of melancholy of missing somebody who's not there. That's what is called the vanishing twin syndrome. And I see people like dealing with this topic in my daily life. And it's kind of a big thing, and it's a mystery. It really speaks to the fascination of our human minds to deal with such kind of topic, because it brings with it so much love, pain, struggle, and inner conflict. It's wow. That's why I wrote that song, those lyrics. Vanishing Twin. It's being released coming Friday. It's actually my favorite track of the album. It's super non-typical metal track until the very end of the song. That's where it becomes really heavy, but it's a long tension span with drums like just only floor toms, no cut or whatever rhythm, just like minutes on end. And Daniel sings his vocals with these lyrics on top of it, and it's like it's coming in waves and waves and builds up. And then at the very end, we have this sort of explosion with a few metal riffs. But before that, there's not much metal going on, but there's a lot of tension. That's what I like. You know, my favorite artists all have that. Like long songs, long tension spans, like Pink Floyd, Anathema, Tool, Carnival, all those kind of bands that have that. So Radiohead, long tension full songs. I'm really in for that.
Very interesting story. And when you first share those personal lyrics with the bands, was it completely natural or did you feel strange?
Oh, it's natural actually. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so to say. So we Dutch people, we are very direct to each other. And I know these guys in the band like super well. They see it as a compliment if we can talk about these topics. They come up with certain lyrics as well, of course. And it's just part of the bigger plan, I guess, to share stuff like this in a band. I'm super happy that we can do that it feels safe to do that.
There is another song that is At the Edge of Winter. You
Yeah.
collaborated with Charlotte Wessels. Beyond the name and background, what did she bring in terms of emotional texture that you couldn't have achieved with just the band internal voice?
Female approach. I don't want to offend women, but by only saying they bring on a female touch. But I really miss that sometimes in metal. I love female artists like Fiona Apple, like Tori Amos, or Kate Bush, and I miss that sometimes. You know, I'm not really into the power metal ladies with high voices, but I like the arty vibe of some of the pop musicians, and that's what she brings, I guess. You know, like the softness or the creativity. You have to know, like in my band, the keyboard player Uri, guitarist Bart, and the other guitarist Joe, they are very, very picky in if the quality is good enough, if it's interesting, if it's interesting enough what other people bring to the band. So they were kind of hesitant when it came to Charlotte. All right, is she really up for this task? But when they hear the first drafts of Charlotte, they were really surprised. Like, wow, there's really cool intervals there, because she actually delivered multiple layers of vocals, and they were really surprised. Whoa, this is kind of really arty taste with like cool sounds and cool voicing sounds and cool intervals there. So that's really, yeah. So that's what she brings, actually. By the way, she's also part of our scene since they went out with Vola, the band from Denmark. So she's also sort of part of the modern metal or modern prog scene. And she lives actually 3 kilometers down the road here in Utrecht. So it's also a bit, like we know each other a bit.
Did she change anything in the structure or mood?
Actually not. The entire vocal line was made by Daniel. But she did not come up with extra elements. Oh, is that true, actually? I think no. She actually made extra vocal lines, especially on the end of the song and right before the metal riff comes in. Oh man, yeah. I don't know, but yeah, she created like extra lines for us to work out and to produce on the album. That's true, but not like big shifts in songwriting. No.
Another song that is if I am not wrong, an advance is closer to the unknown.
Yeah.
I think that is an extraordinary song. Literally refers to approaching the unknown. Did you try to face something that is unknown for you?
Yeah, in a way. I think these songs, like I said, right, maybe I'm just repeating stuff. They breathe more, they have more space, and I think they are better songs with a better sound. Concerning sound, this is the first album that we didn't mix ourselves. This album was actually mixed by Forrester Savelle from Australia, who also mixed the epic Carnival record, Sound Awake. And he really increased our sound, our impact of the album. And that was kind of a big step for us, because with all the previous albums, we did and the production and the mixing and mastering ourselves. And now it was like, we really have to get a more modern sound, more impact. Can we do it ourselves? Yeah, maybe. No. We actually hire somebody else and get expertise from somebody else. And actually, it worked out totally. We're super content with the album, actually. And I don't think I'm not really sure if we were capable to do that quality of sound ourselves, actually.
When you send him the material, did you ask him something that he mustn't do with your sound?
No. No, we actually gave him carte blanche. Maybe you know the term, like just do what you feel like. And he pumped up everything like maximum, a bit too much. So we said, okay. Now let's get it a bit more decent but still heavy. And that's actually how it worked. But one of the things was for him to handle with more impactful drums and with sometimes 100 layers of synthesizers per song. Because I told you, Uri had to be central on this album. So he went really mad to come up with new parts. So sometimes he made up to 100 lines in one song. So Forrester Savelle, the mixer, had to choose like which lines are prominent and which I have to go out. And that was kind of a struggle maybe for him, but he's like super intelligent guy. He can deal with that. It is regular work, of course.
Yes, between phenotype and genotype, there is a long expectant space in your discography. Did that weight of silence influence your songwriting?
Definitely.
Did you ever compose against other people's expectation?
Oh, we never actually compose for expectations. We just only have our own expectations. But to take that step back after the how do you call that? The splitting up of textures was actually really good, because then you can really zoom out, like, okay, what does textures actually sound like? What does it consist of? And we had the feeling that we wrote a bunch of good songs, like I said, but we also wrote a bunch of shitty songs with too much ideas, too much experiment, and then the song gets lost. So, like I said, for this record, we actually wanted songs to be more coherent. It still can be 7-8 minute long tracks, but it has to tell a coherent story. That's the fact for this album, I guess.
This question is especially for you. For years, there was more talk about the impossible time signatures and syncopated riff and drum beat.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you ever feel burdened by being the technical drummer?
No. I'm challenged by that. I see it as a sort of art form to come up with new experimental ideas. But I have to admit, not for this record. There's not so much technical stuff going on. Of course, it's still proggy, progressive metal music, but I'm not going all out on weird, crazy time signatures and polyrhythms. I did my fair share of that, but I think to come up with a good album, sometimes it's also good to step back from all the experiments, especially on those topics of polyrhythms and time signatures. It's actually a great tool to write songs with, but not for this record. Maybe next record will be maybe a bit more extrovert in going out with polyrhythms. But I'm not sure, like if we do that anymore. It's just like I said, Genotype is very much the identity that we have right now at this very moment. And these songs really belong to a big stage. Most of the old songs, for instance, like the Single Grain of Sand, that's the song you're referring to, maybe from the Phenotype album with all the sick ass time signatures and polyrhythms. They don't suit on a festival. They don't suit on a big venue, like the big venue you have in Madrid or Barcelona or Bilbao. They belong to the smaller stages. I think the new sound is perfect for the tour we have coming up, for the tour with Ginger. Like we're going out for 2,000, 3,000 people venue. I think it's really massive to play those songs there. It was not possible with some older songs. That's why we didn't play Single Grain of Sand, for instance, a lot of times live, because it was too chaotic, too complex. The listeners were just like, perplexed or flabbergasted by what the fuck is going on, instead of hearing what's actually being played.
But who were the drummers who inspired you to create those intricate parts and impossible links between rhythms?
I get a lot of inspiration, but most of the things I come up with myself, actually, I'm always striving for ideas that are non-existent until the time. The ideas that are sort of state of the art. That sounds a bit snobby, but that's my way of working. I don't actually play drums that much. I hardly play drums. But in my head, I'm always busy with getting new ideas. What's already done and what is still new ground. But of course, I have my favorites, like Thomas Hake from Meshuggah, but even more, Morgan Ågren from the solo project of Fredrik Torendal from Meshuggah. He is super technical and flowing fusion jazz. Then there's Danny Carey from Tool, of course, and Bill Bruford from Yes. I'm not so much actually into them because they are a drummer, but because they are songwriters. The songwriting of Tool is partly done by Danny Carey. And I think the songwriting of Tool is even more interesting than the drums of Tool. I'm more into textures as a songwriter than as maybe being a drummer. Drumming is just a tool for creating something. If textures is not here, I don't play drums. And I did not, actually. I didn't play drums for 7 years because if textures was split up, so I had no outlet, didn't play any drums.
Let me confess you that at the beginning, I imagined that you were inspired from some free jazz drummers, but then I recognized that your music has not enough freedom. The music is very complicated and chaotic, but need to end with all the musicians in the same way.
Yeah,
you understand
that's a big part. Yeah, it's true. It's super structured, and that's, you could argue, a bad or a weak thing about our music, because I like freedom. Give me a tempo, give me a pulse, and I will play. Give me something to eat, and I go like maximum. I like that. So that's why I was in the other band, Exivious. Maybe you know it, but it gave me a lot more freedom to play around. In Texas, everything is super structured, and sometimes I feel a bit sad, like, oh, yeah. Every night it's the same. I'm more of a free guy, When I was young, I used to come up with drum solos in songs from The Cream or from Golden Earring or Dire Straits, just playing my own parts instead of their parts. I really like to do that. And I'm still, you can just give me a drum kit and a stage, and I can make a story with the drum kit. Or for 1 minute, 5 minutes, if I have to play half an hour, I go there.
Looking back, do you think the breakup was a necessary mistake, a healthy pause, or simply the only possible decision at the time?
Yeah, definitely the last one. You have to keep, and I have to keep in mind, we really struggled with the quality of the music, with the quality of getting the band, holding the band together while having and building families for ourselves with kids. It's really heavy to do that. It's not really easy to have such a band on a professional level. That's really demanding. And then 3 kids at home. It doesn't always work out. And we did that for like 17 years, even more before I got into Texas, as a 14-year-old kid, my mind was just set on playing with a band already. And then sometimes you need to do a step back to grow. And that was the case with the split up. Grow does not always come in a straight line up, but like you have to go backwards and look back and reflect, and then you grow even more than just going on.
So I remember that you have a successful period in India, and
Yeah.
yes, few European progressive metal bands can say that India was a key territory. What did you learn from the Indian audience that you would like European and American audiences to understand about texture as well?
To be wondered, I guess. You have to know that when we went to India, it probably was the first Indian metal festival ever where we played. We played there as a headliner together with Amon Amarth. Just 1 second, I dropped the... We went to India in 2009, and it was probably the first festival ever held, first metal festival ever held in India. So the people were really totally overwhelmed by this fact. And we too. We came up to the festival ground and people really started running to us like we were John Lennon and Paul McCartney, like all the way. And it was a bit frightening as well, like, whoa, 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 whoa. But they were super, how do you call that? Generous, super open. And it was all new to them. So you could see that it was all fresh and pure. Sometimes here in Holland, like if you look at the bill of the local here in Utrecht, in 1 week, there's on Monday this metal band, Wednesday that metal band, Friday there's Sepultura coming, and Saturday Trivium. People are really spoiled, and you can see that in the people. People are more like in India. They are like, ah, it's nice to have that, to be wondered still by new music, but we don't have that so much in Europe anymore. It's something that we maybe could learn once again from Indian audience.
There are still fans who point to polars or drawing circles as their absolute favorites. How,
Wow.
how do you manage the pressure of a legacy in which your past compete with your current work?
Wow. There's no pressure because what we do is super 100% us. And since it's 100% us, this is it. I cannot change anything. We just can do our best. And that's what we do. Maybe, there's pressure on, like I said, the material's not good enough. But as long as everything we put out is very much us, ourselves, it's just what it is. So the legacy that we have is just a super blessing that we have. You have to know that for me personally, I already live in a bonus level of a bonus level. Right after Polars, when the album was released, we were signed by Listenable Records. In the first year of playing, we supported bands like Meshuggah, The Dillinger Escape Plan, Sepultura, Morbid Angel, Machine Head. I literally had to come up with new dreams after that year. Like, what the hell happened in this year? Like, all my dreams are just fulfilled. We were signed by Nuclear Blast Records, and we could go out to fly-in shows to Portugal, Spain, your country, France, Finland, then to India, America. Our guitarist, Jochem Jacob, first guitar player, actually quit the band because he ran out of dreams. After that run with Nuclear Blast and making those albums, in 2011, he was like, I actually dreamed all my dreams. It's over, Stef. I have to do something else because I ran out of dreams. So I feel like a really lucky guy, just playing with these awesome musicians. And still my buddy Bart is still in the band, and I played with him since I was 13 years old. I grew up like together with him in high school, playing my first metal songs like Rage Against the Machine or Sepultura, Rise, and Chaos AD together with him. Actually, in the same area, I heard, as Joey and Mario Duplantier from Gojira also had their first coming together as musicians to Chaos AD and on Sepultura. But I still remember those days, and we're still there, like 40, 45 years old, and still doing the stuff that we like most. Besides other stuff that we do nowadays, of course. We have families. I have my drum book just released. I have a music school with 300 kids. I teach to the conservatory. So I do loads of things beside that. But still, Textures is like sort of like all over umbrella that we have.
I think that is a beautiful life.
Yeah,
In general terms, yes.
Yeah, and we stayed so much close to ourselves. Everything that's around us is there because of Textures in a way. And Textures is still super very much ourselves. So that feels, really like a blessing. We never made music for the label or for the ladies or whatever. It's we made music for ourselves, I guess.
But between 2018 and now, Texture continued to exist in memes, playlists, forum recommendation from friends.
Yeah.
Did you notice this parallel life of the band?
Sort of. I became aware of this by bands like Tesseract, Animals as Leaders, Periphery, Vola, but also Bart Goldstad from the drummer from Leprous. They all came up to us like, we are inspired by your music. Most of the time, it was our third record, Silhouettes, that got them inspired. But the scene really exploded in those years from 2018 until now. The scene is so much bigger. So yeah, I had that in mind, but I was not super busy with it actually.
And how did it influence your desire to return or not during those years?
Like that. Maybe a bit, but the overall thing was that if I have an idea, it has to go out. I cannot keep it inside. Same counts for a few other of the band members, but I got really in the mood, like when it starts, like I have to make music. I have an idea. I have an idea. I want to do something with it. I never can hold back. For instance, I like to sing since the age I'm 20 years old. And actually, in a few weeks, my other band will release a debut album where I do vocals. I just want to do things. And I want to write my drum book, So that's why there's a drum book. I have a really hard time that if I have an idea, it has to stay inside. It's in my way not really possible.
And I think that now you are more mature, you have responsibilities that you didn't have when this band started. So
yeah, personally, yeah.
Yes, so my question is if there's something you now prioritize, family, mental health, time off, that you didn't protect enough in the past.
No. You have to know this story. In 2008, already in 2008, we were, how old were we then? Like 26, 27 years old. We had the third album, Silhouettes, coming out. And we were on tour with Aborted and another German band. The tour lasted for 2.5 weeks in a nightliner bus. Just super nice time and all was good. The last show was in Holland, some city 50 kilometers from here. And the guitarist from Aborted, Aborted maybe, right? Super heavy death metal band. The guitarist from Aborted, Peter, was a really sensitive guy. He only listened to sort of cabaret and very tiny, like humble singer-songwriter music. Joni Mitchell, even more like fragile than that. At the last show, at the very end of the show, everybody was gone. The audience was back home. He sat down on the stage and he was in tears. And I asked, Peter, what's up? What happened? Why are you in tears? And he said, and I said, the tour is over. We can go back home. And, we had a really good time. And he said, yeah, but dude, I don't have a home. We are always on the road. Now I have to go home. And I live still with my parents. I'm over 30 years old. And I still live with my parents. All my friends are gone. They all went to study and to have friends and families. But I'm still here. And now I had this 2.5 weeks with you guys. And it was super intense. I love you guys, man. I want to be with you guys. You feel like family. And once again, I have to go and miss you now. I hate that feeling. And that conversation with Peter actually struck us like through the heart. The week after, we had a meeting with the band and we decided not to go 100% all out touring with Texas because of this story. Because we knew we have girlfriends, we have relations, we have friends, we have a good life, we study. If we go like 300 days on the road, we lose everything. So that's what we did not do already in 2008.
Wise decision, Stef. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And now with this recording, was there a song on Genotype that made you think, okay, now it makes sense for Texture to exist again?
yeah, definitely the song that will be released in upcoming Friday. That Vanishing Twin song with the floor tom drum. That song did not probably fit to the previous textures. That was too much of an odd song, but it definitely belongs to this album. It's very much our new sound. I think you will really like it because it's a vulnerable song. It's emotional and it's not so metal, but it's really heavy to listen to, like sort of emotionally. You have to crank up the volume, man. It sounds better the harder, louder it goes.
Where does that song sit in the album sequence? And was it placement intentional because of its meaning to you?
No, not no. There's not a special story to the placement of the order of the songs. Actually, it's kind of in the middle of the album, but especially for the only for the last album. Sorry, only for the last song. There's this specific spot because we always want the last song, like I said, right? The last song has to be something really special, like the epic track only for the connoisseurs, for the people who know. That's very much the last song. But this song, Vanishing Twin, it's I think really in the middle of the album. It's just no, there's no specific story to that.
For the people who will listen Genotype and they will listen Genotype as its first new album of your band, what would you say?
Give it a chance because it's super heavy. And it's gonna dare your emotions and tension span. But please stay focused with the songs and you will discover it might be as layered as our previous songs, but now differently.
Perfect, Stef. Thank you very much for your time. I enjoyed this conversation a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yes, as a Cuban boy, I was really fan of the drums and the drummers.
Oh, thank you. Nice.
Yes. And when I pay attention to you, say, wow, there is a lot of different size or faces in this playing.
It's true. Yeah, there's a lot of different sizes and all the jazz stuff that's in it. I never listened to that. It's just made up by myself. But all the fusion stuff and the metal, yeah, of course, I have my inspirations. But it's really cool. Thank you very much for the credits.
Yes, Stef. And when you come to Madrid, I will be ready to go and see the band alive in concert. Will be the
All
first
right. Thank you very much. And just kick my ass when you see me. Kick my ass, not kiss my ass. No, kick.
No, I will keep. No, sir. Bye, Stef.
Ciao.